It is somewhere after 2 in the morning, and you are awake again, running the same reel. The job you did not take, the city you did not move to, the person you did not call back, or called back too late, or called back and ruined. You are not really thinking about any of it. You are watching it. There is a version of you living the other outcome, and he seems calm, and the light where he lives is better than the light in this room. You have been visiting him for years. Here is what this episode is going to say, and it is going to say it now instead of making you wait 15 minutes for it. There is a second life running alongside this one, and it does not exist. You assembled it out of every fork you did not take, and you have been quietly measuring your real life against it, most days, for most of your adult life. And you always lose. You will always lose. Because the other life has never had a bad Tuesday. It has never been tired. It has never been sick of itself. It has never had to survive a single ordinary afternoon. In August of 1881, a half-blind man walking beside a lake in Switzerland found the question that ends this. It is the most brutal question in philosophy, and almost everyone who repeats it has no idea what it is actually for. Would you live this exact life again, not a better one? This one. Every humiliation in the same order. Nobody is born with a phantom life. It gets installed. The first time you understood that there was a correct version of you, and that you were not currently it, you were very small. It might have been a report card, a comparison to a brother or a sister, a parent's face-changing temperature when you said the wrong thing at the table. Whatever the specific moment was, you extracted the rule underneath it, and the rule was this: love arrives when you match the picture. So you built the picture. That picture is the first draft of the other life. Then it took on a second job, and this one is more tender. A child who cannot leave a room can still leave in his head. Imagining the better life is how a child survives the actual one. That is not weakness, and it is not self-pity. It is a genuinely sophisticated defense invented under pressure by someone with no other options. And it works. That is the problem. Because nothing ever tells you to take it down. So you carry into your 30s, your 40s, your 60s, a machine designed by a 7-year-old for a situation that ended a long time ago. And it is still running, still generating the alternate footage, still grading you every single day against a man who does not exist. And notice how the competition is rigged. The phantom never ages badly. He does not get the diagnosis. His marriage does not go through the flat years. His work is not boring in the middle because it has no middle. He is not a life. He is an advertisement for one. Jung would put it this way: you have taken the wholeness you have not yet lived and projected it outward onto a fantasy. And then you moved into the gap. In 1879, Friedrich Nietzsche resigned his professorship at Basel. He was 34 years old. He was not leaving for something better. His body had simply stopped cooperating. Migraines since childhood, vomiting attacks, a right eye that was functionally blind. In a letter that December, he estimated that he had lost roughly a third of that year to his own head. Hold on to that, because everything that follows depends on it. 2 summers later, in August of 1881, he was walking through the woods along the shore of Lake Silvaplana in the Swiss Alps, and he stopped near a huge rock. He made a note on a sheet of paper, and on that sheet he wrote a postscript: 6,000 feet beyond man and time. What arrived at that rock was the thought of eternal recurrence. He put it into print the following year, in the Gay Science, section 341, and he did not present it as a theory. He presented it as an ambush. What if a demon crept after you into your loneliest loneliness some day or night, and said to you, "This life, as you live it at present and have lived it, you must live it once more, and also innumerable times. And there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy, and every thought, and every sigh, and all the unspeakably small and great in thy life must come to you again, and all in the same series and sequence." Would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon that so spoke? Or have you once experienced a tremendous moment in which you would answer him, "You are a god, and never did I hear anything so divine"? Now notice what he did not do. He did not argue that time is a circle. He never asks you to believe any of it. The demon is not a claim about the universe. The demon is a scale. And what he weighs is not the cosmos. It is you. Nietzsche gave the passage a title, and the title is the whole point. He called it the heaviest burden. Most people fail it instantly. Not intellectually, physically. Something in the chest says no. Not this. Not again. And that no is the diagnosis. Because what that no actually means is, I have been living a life I am waiting to be over. In the same book, Nietzsche had already written down the other answer. I want more and more, he wrote, to perceive the necessary characters in things as the beautiful. Amor Fati. Let that henceforth be my love. I do not want to wage war with the ugly. I do not want to accuse. Looking aside, let that be my sole negation. Amor Fati. Love of fate. Years later in Ecce Homo, he sharpened it into a formula. My formula for greatness in man is Amor Fati. The fact that a man wishes nothing to be different, either in front of him or behind him or for all eternity. Not only must the necessary be born, it must also be loved. 50 years after that, Carl Jung sat down with a seminar in Zurich and spent 5 years, from 1934 to 1939, working through Thus Spoke Zarathustra, line by line. And in his own writing, in colder and more clinical language, he made the identical demand. Acceptance of oneself, he wrote, is the essence of the moral problem, and the acid test of one's whole outlook on life. It is easy, he says, to feed the beggar, to forgive an insult, to love your enemy. But what if I should discover that the poorest of all beggars, the most impudent of all offenders, that these are within me, that I myself am the enemy who must be loved? What then? You have almost certainly tried some version of this already, and it did not hold. There are 5 reasons, and you will recognize at least 3 of them. The first is that you turned it into positivity. Everything happens for a reason. Grateful for my journey, it all worked out how it was supposed to. Nietzsche is not saying it was good. He is not saying it was secretly for the best, and he is not offering you a hidden plan. Amor Fati contains no theory of why. It removes the demand that the past be otherwise, and it removes absolutely nothing else. If that sounds cold, remember who wrote it. A man pensioned out of his career half-blind at 34, who spent large parts of some years lying in a dark room. He was not describing a good day. He was describing the only thing left when the good days are not coming. The second is the strength myth. His most famous sentence has been flattened into a slogan on a gym wall. In the old public domain translation it reads, "From the military school of life, that which does not kill me makes me stronger." 7 words in a section of scattered aphorisms in a book he wrote in a few weeks. It was never a doctrine, and plenty of things fail to kill you and still leave you smaller. He knew that better than his readers do. Amor Fati is not the claim that your suffering improved you. It is the harder claim, that you can stop requiring it to have been useful. The third is that you accept your life in order to get something. You do the accepting because you read somewhere that acceptance is what unlocks the next phase. That is not acceptance. That is a transaction. And the phantom is still standing right there, holding the ledger, waiting to be paid. The fourth is the one that costs people the most, so listen carefully. Accepting is not approving. Amor Fati does not mean that what was done to you was acceptable. It absolves no one. Blame, justice, consequence, distance, all of it stays on the table. What ends is something else entirely. It is the private, permanent, exhausting insistence, running underneath every day of your life, that the past be something other than what it was. You are allowed to prosecute the past. You are not able to revise it. And that insistence is a bill you pay every morning for a product that is never going to ship. The fifth is the real reason, and almost nobody says it out loud. The phantom is load-bearing. If you have spent 30 years as the person whose real life got derailed, then the derailment is not only a wound, it is an identity, it is an explanation, it is a defense. It explains why you never started, it explains why this version of you was never a fair test. Put the phantom down and you lose the alibi with him. What is left is just a person, with some time remaining, and no excuse. Most people quietly would rather keep the grief. So something has to die, and it is not the past. The past is already dead. It has been dead the whole time. What has to die is the other one. And that is a real grief, which is the part nobody prepares you for. You are burying a person who never existed. There is no service. Nobody sends anything. You cannot say out loud that you are mourning a man who was never born without sounding unwell. So it happens where those things always happen. In the car, at the sink, somewhere in the middle of an unremarkable week. Be gentle about who built him. It was a child, doing the only thing that was available. You do not owe that child contempt. You owe him thanks, and then you owe him the news that he can stop working now. And be honest about the scale of it. You are not laying down one regret. You are laying down the entire architecture that regret was holding up. Every conversation you rehearsed and never had. Every year you privately marked as wasted. Every time you looked at someone else's life and did the arithmetic. All of that was construction work on a building nobody was ever going to live in. Viktor Frankl, who had more standing than most to talk about this, wrote it in one line. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And then comes the strange flat stretch afterward, which nobody warns you about either. For a while, life gets quieter in a way that feels like loss, because the comparison was doing something for you. It was giving every ordinary day a stake, a drama, a verdict. Without it, Tuesday is only Tuesday. That flatness is not failure. That is withdrawal. And underneath it, slowly, the actual life begins to come into focus, for the first time, because it is finally not standing next to something better. The demon comes back, same room, later in your life. And you're not going to answer the way the internet tells you to answer. You're not going to say yes, gladly, all of it again, every wound in the same order, and mean it. That answer is theatre. Anyone who gives it quickly has not understood the question. What actually happens, if any of this has been real, is much smaller than that. He asks, and there is a pause, and you notice that you did not immediately flinch. That is it. That is the entire movement. A small delay where the no used to be automatic. Nietzsche asked how you would have to become favourably inclined toward yourself and toward life. to long for nothing more than this last eternal sanctioning and sealing. Favourably inclined, not ecstatic, not certain, not healed. Inclined. You are not being asked to want it. You are being asked to stop needing it, to have been different. The other life was never taken from you. It was never there. What is here is this one, this exact one, in the same series and the same sequence. And it's still going.